We are interviewing Ellaine.
We had a lot of fun on this one. We laughed a lot. She's wealth of knowledge and laughs at our jokes, so this was a fun one.
Yeah, regardless of whether or not we're funny, she was supportive, and we appreciate that from our guests. But also it was interesting because she is not involved in real estate. And so that was cool for us because as real estate investors and not so familiar with stock market investing, it was cool to interview someone with a different perspective. And she's also starting her own podcast, so that's cool, something to check out. And then she's got, I don't know, she's doing really well on Instagram, so well that she was able to ring the bell at the stock market exchange,
which, come to find out, is still a thing. I thought it was all like online, but no, there's still like an actual place where they're like 2222333 waving papers.
This is how little we know about it. Stock investment.
Anyway,
enjoy.
Welcome to Investing RN, the Investing RN podcast. We're here. We're blessed today with the presence of Ellaine Maala, one of the first people I reached out to when we decided to launch our podcast. So very grateful that you're taking out some of your time of the day to talk with us. Ellaine, what are you doing?
Well, this has been kind of long coming, like this, this interview, because I know we were supposed to do this like last year, and I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're a nurse, now a nurse practitioner. You've gotten into finance, which is obviously what brings us all together.
Mm-hmm.
But tell us about who you were, like how you got into nursing, and don't tell us yet how you got to where you are, because we want to we want to do the wait till the end thing.
Mm-hmm.
But tell us about nursing.
I'm Ellaine. I have been in the nursing profession for over 13 years. And I was an ICU nurse for maybe 6 years before I went to nurse practitioner school. And right now I am a nurse practitioner in a specialty clinic. I do pulmonary and sleep medicine, and I'm a mom of 2. I love being a mom. It's one of my favorite, roles that I put on my head. But I'm also a finance educator and a business owner.
So yeah, how are you introduced into healthcare? Do you have a family of healthcare providers, or?
I actually came from a family of nurses, which is crazy because my sister's a nurse practitioner, my dad's a nurse. Well, actually, he is a physician in the Philippines, but when we moved here from the Philippines, he ended up becoming a nurse. My mom is the OG nurse, in the family, because she is the one who petitioned us from the Philippines to immigrate here in America. And then my husband is not a nurse, but I did meet him in nursing school. He realized he didn't like it, but his mom's a nurse, his sisters are nurses, his brother's a nurse. So I came from a family of nurses. But I knew I've always wanted to work in healthcare because I think growing up, that's what I've been exposed to. But I did not think that I was going to be a nurse. I initially wanted to be a doctor. But that was because I really looked up to my dad. And then my mom ended up saying, just be a nurse, when we immigrated here, because student loans, everything. And then I ended up falling in love with the nursing profession. And I was like, I really love being a nurse. And I'm glad I actually did it because it has opened so many opportunities for me.
This episode is sponsored by All Day Investments. If you would like to get your start in real estate investing, but don't want to deal with toilets or tenants, we have several new opportunities that might interest you. Head over to alldayinvestments.co/invest or follow the link in our show notes to book a call with our team.
That physician in another country moving to the States is something that actually just came up. Well, I guess, was it a fish? Oh, no, it was a nurse.
It was yesterday.
Well, we talked to somebody yesterday from another country that came here. His mom was a nurse and she was able to become a nurse here as well. But what is that with the physician coming over, and why was it that he got into nursing as opposed to being a physician? Was there a big process there that kind of held that up?
Yeah. So, my dad hated being a nurse, being a physician in the Philippines. He's been a physician for almost 20, 30 years in the Philippines, and then moving here, it's such a different, role. But the reason why he ended up becoming a physician here is because I mean, a nurse in here is because if he would try to be a doctor in here, he would go back to residency. So I think that's like the whole process. And he's like, I'm too old for that. I don't want to go back to residency. And as you know, like resident physicians don't make good money here. Like they're so overworked. Like it's just like one of those things that's not sustainable, like for somebody like him who's been doing it for so long in the Philippines. So he ended up taking like nursing classes, and then it actually took a while. It was only my mom. We were like in a single income household for a while. My mom's the only one that's working for the whole family as a nurse. And then it wasn't until maybe a year or two after that that my dad started working as a nurse as well. So they just like kind of their shifts are like my mom's working day shift, my dad's working night shift. So they're kind of just taking turns like looking after us at that time.
That actually just came up. Like Josh and I were talking about that, and that's kind of something more for my wife and I, Jen. But yeah, that whole thing of like trying to like balance that out, because it's, you would think like, oh, you just one works day, one works night, but it's like, yeah, there's that little like 30-minute window in between where it's like, what do you do with the kids for like an hour while you're like both like changing shifts or whatever if you work the same day?
It's difficult even having that kind of arrangement, because my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law, so my husband's brother, he's a nurse, and then his wife is also a nurse, and they have 3 kids, and it's kind of the same thing. Like they have that like in between where they're changing shifts, and so they have to actually bring the kids to grandma, like, and then that's where they like kind of switch off. So I mean, it really helps that we have like, you know, some help, like our in-laws are there to help.
Because the alternative I saw where I worked, there was a couple that worked on like day shift together, and then they had a kid, and one of them would work like, let's just say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The other one would work Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But I was like, man, that's tough. Like you're never seeing each other. Like, and
that's what happens to them, because my sister-in-law works only weekends, and then he works Monday to Friday because his shift is like 8-hour shift. And they tell me that they barely even see each other.
Yeah, that's definitely hard.
It's hard.
So talk about your transition from nursing. You went straight to ICU, you said. And then at what point did you decide to do nurse practitioner, and why did you consider anesthesia? Because I know in ICU you have like all the options in front of you. So what made you choose one over the other?
So like I knew like right when I graduated nursing school that I wanted to go do ICU. And you know, at that time, like it's so difficult to get into ICU as a new grad nurse. But I'm kind of like one of those people that like I really wanted. So what I ended up doing is I really took my resume. I just went to like this ICU director in our county hospital, and I went there unannounced, and I'm just like, I'm here. I really want to work here. Here's my resume. And then she ended up, you know, hiring me, and she's like, you know what, like I never do this, but I can really see like you really want to work here. So I worked there, and you know, I think it's also my personality. It's perfect for the ICU because just the way I am. Like I love everything organized. I don't like talking to people. I like talking to people like individually, but like in general, like I hate, like I'm an introvert. So like it worked out for me, and I really want to take the time to get to know my patients and like learn the disease process and all that stuff. At that time, the idea of like going into anesthesia CRNA did come up. I did apply. I got into this one CRNA school, but then for some reason, I'm one of those people that I really follow my gut, like when it comes to like decision making. And at that time, when I received that I guess like acceptance email at that time, I was like, I don't know if I really want to do this, because no shade to CRNAs, because I think that you guys do it.
Throw all the shade.
Throw all the shade. But it's just something that for me at that time, when I was like deciding whether I want to do NP school or CRNA, I was thinking that I don't want to do the same thing over and over, like as a CRNA. Like if like at that time, I thought that it was like very limited. Like you're going to be working with surgeons, which, you know, I've dealt with surgeons in the ICU. I know their personalities. And so like, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that, you know, forever. And I'm pretty sure there are different surgeons out there. But at that time, I was like, I don't know if that's something that I can see myself doing. And then so I kind of did not go. And then I ended up moving up north to Sacramento at that time. I was still a nurse at that time. And being an NP actually didn't even come into like my it didn't even become like an idea until I had a really crazy night in the ICU. And I was just like so fed up. And it's crazy because I'm like, I hate they gave me the two hardest patients in the unit. I was working in a neuro ICU at that time. I was like, I applied to NP school right there and then on my break. And I was like, I'm not going to do this like bedside nursing forever. I'm going to apply. And so I applied, and I even forgot that I applied. So a few weeks later, I got the interview invitation, and I was like, oh, I applied to NP school. I don't even remember this. And then my gut was telling me just do it. And then I ended up going to the interview. It was like the hardest process ever. And then I ended up getting in that program. And I ended up doing it. So, and I think that nurse practitioner is really great because like I have so many specialties where I can work, and there's just so many options.
I'm going to pretend you didn't just trash CRNAs all over the internet.
I was going to give you the opportunity while you're throwing shade, like as an ICU nurse, how do you feel about ER nurses?
You know how the relationship is with ER and ICU nurses. And
it's rocky.
It's funny how
rocky. We hate you guys.
It is.
And I'm gonna team up with Ellaine on this one. You guys are terrible.
Yeah, I mean, that's my background is ER nursing, so I know nobody likes us. It's okay.
No, ER nurses are actually some of the most fun nurses I've met, and I have a few friends who are ER nurses. But you know, it's just it's a rocky relationship.
We always joke around about like giving a report like with other people. It's just like I think my friend one time gave a report and it was like, is the patient ambulatory? It's like, but like, you know, with ER, it's like you could like send somebody on lunch break and then it's like, oh, they got a bed, call report. And it's like, okay. So it's like, is the patient ambulatory? It's like, yes. And then you get up to the floor and it's like, oh, double amputee. And it's like, okay. So, all right. Sorry. Go ahead, funny. Josh.
And so now you're a nurse practitioner now. How long have you been doing that? And what does your day look like today?
Right now, it's crazy because I've been a nurse practitioner now for like 7 years. I just realized that because I graduated in 2017 and the time really flew by fast. But with nurse practitioner, I was actually initially in family medicine. I even did urgent care, and it wasn't until maybe 2019 where I landed like a pulmonary and sleep medicine. I love my job, and sometimes I don't even want to talk about it because like it's such a great like gig. My schedule is so great that sometimes like I feel like if I talk about it, like somebody will get jealous and like, you know, like say something, because I do work 10-hour shifts Monday to Thursday. But the great thing with my work is that I work with 3 attending physicians, so 3 pulmonologists. I'm like the only NP in our department, and I get like 2 hours of admin time every day. So it's like I'm only working from like 8 to 5, like for 4 days a week. And sometimes like I get to go home earlier, or sometimes like I can go to work at like 9 because I have no patients until 9. So, and I have a good relationship with my manager, and she's very flexible. Like if something comes up with my kids, I can just let her know like, hey, I have no babysitter, you know, next week. She's like, okay, blocking your schedule. So it's really great. Like I feel like it's like one of those unicorn jobs. And I think that's maybe the reason why I'm kind of like in between, like if I should do like business ownership as a full-time thing versus like doing it on the side, or even like, you know, like doing it together, because right now I can manage doing both at the same time.
Yeah, that's great. I also feel like I have a unicorn job. I think I've talked about it on here before. I don't remember, but to your point, like I don't want to talk about it too much because then someone's going to come and take it from me. I just know it.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that we have that kind of mentality, but you know, like you deserve it. And like, there's so much things to go around that people can have the same thing. Like they don't have to, you don't have to lose your job for other people to have the same, you know, like unicorn job.
So with the investing side of things, because it sounds like NP kind of came out of like a point of pain with like that night shift you had, or that shift you had in the ICU. What was it that kind of drove you to this, to like pursue some sort of investing?
Like investing like in the stock market, or like in being a nurse practitioner?
Oh, not the nurse practitioner, but in terms of like things outside of work, like stock market, whatever type of investing.
Yeah. So believe it or not, I'm actually not the best with money initially. And I was even one of those like new grad nurses who bought a new car, bought purses, like, right when I got my first paychecks. And so, like, I grew up in a family where money was never talked about. Even in our culture, it seems like it's so taboo. So I'm Filipino, and like, we never sit down with people to talk about how much we're making, investing, and all this stuff. So I grew up not really doing any of those. So I think it was a time that I became a nurse practitioner and that I started like learning more about stock market and like investing and all that stuff. And when I learned about financial literacy, that's when I was like, okay, like I need to really change, the way that I spend and everything. So it kind of happened at the same time, but it didn't kind of amplify until I became pregnant with my daughter, because that's when I was like, man, like I need to be like financially responsible, because now I'm like responsible for another human being. Like, I cannot just be buying things because I have this emotion based spending where I want something and I would buy it. So yeah, so that's when I started learning about personal finance and I fell in love with it. Like I got so into investing that I ended up even naming myself Nurse to Invest, because I love everything investing.
Yeah. So what was like going from somebody that, did the emotional spending and bought the bags and the cars and all that, to somebody that was going to be conscious about finance? What was your first step in kind of identifying maybe what a problem was, or how you were going to move to the next phase of this Nurse Who Invests?
And I'll piggyback on that. And how do you find a balance now? Because you're doing well for yourself. So how do you like balance the reward versus also the discipline at the same time?
No, those are really great questions. And for me, like I think getting educated is like the number one thing. It's like learning a little bit about personal finance and how it can affect you. Second thing is like really working on your mindset or like your relationship with money, because I found that like, because I had all this experiences that money wasn't talked about, I am an emotional, spender, this and that really working on those two things, like education and mindset, is like one of the first things that I did when it comes to being really good with how I handle my money. And going back to Josh's like question, right now I'm doing what they call like more of like a value-based spending. I think like knowing what your values are and what you really want to do with your money, what makes you happy, what makes you feel good, is like such a great step as well to knowing like how you handle your finances. Because for me, right now, like I know for sure that buying a new purse or a new car is not something that's gonna make me happy like long term. So that's something that I wouldn't do. But I do not mind spending thousands of dollars for travel, for taking my family to like a vacation, that kind of stuff. So really knowing what you really value in your life is so important, because that way, even if you spend money and, even if you spend thousands of dollars, at the end of the day that it's something that makes you feel good and make you happy.
That's a great point. I think, I don't remember who we were talking to, but it was a recent episode that we recorded. And he said like spending a lot of money on stuff that you enjoy is fine. Like it's great. But was it Leslie? I can't remember, but he was saying that he would spend a lot of money so others would look at him. And he said, yeah, no, just trying to find a balance to what you find enjoyment in, and don't care what other people.
Yeah. Are you pretty good about like keeping a budget in terms of things, or is it just like, hey, like we want to do this vacation, like whatever it costs, or are you figuring that a little bit and putting it all into some sort of formula?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm a big like astrology person, so I'm a Libra. So
I'm a Sag.
I have no idea what any of these things mean, so please explain.
it's just like a zodiac sign, and like apparently like people's personality is like, you know, driven by their like zodiac signs. But anyways, like I always say that I'm a Libra because like Libra like represents like a scale. So I'm very indecisive, and I always try to weigh things out on every single thing. Like whenever I wanna, for example, like decide on something, I would always like I will write it down. I would get a paper, I would have like a pros and cons, I would write everything, and I will look at it and be like, oh, like I mean the pros outweighs the cons. And that was the same thing with like even like figuring out if I should work night shift or day shift, or like going to NP or staying as a nurse. So I'm that kind of person. So when it comes to like traveling and like spending money on all these things, like for me, like I do the same way. But nowadays, like I'm actually, my husband is more of like the one that's doing our travel stuff because he's into like credit card points and all that stuff. So we're able to really do like a lot of like luxury traveling and all this stuff just doing credit card points. So it's really nice that he got into that kind of stuff. Like he has his own niche and I have my own niche, and then so it works out for both of us. So right now he's doing more of like the planning for financially, but I do more of the planning, like where we were gonna go, that kind of stuff. So it's really nice.
Pros and cons. I heard you say pros and cons. Triggered. Like I love that stuff. Give me pros and
Yes.
cons list. So how do I know what I am? Like is it depending on when you were born? Is that what it is?
On your birthday. And apparently there's like other more things, because like initially I thought I was just like a Libra, but apparently there's like rising signs, there's like moon signs. So it's pretty complicated. Like you'd be surprised. And
That sounds intense.
and this is another business on itself. Like people are actually teaching, you know, like people about zodiac signs, they're astrologers and all that stuff, and they make money off of that because people want to know.
Is that in the same realm as like psychics?
Yeah.
Can you give me a pros and cons on why I should invest in my zodiac sign? I'm just kidding. So you are doing a lot of stock investing from what I see on your social medias. And I saw you were recently, oh, maybe that's what it was. You went to New York and rang the bell or whatever that was. Maybe that's why I was thinking you were from over there. So yeah, talk about all that. That's really cool.
No, that was such a really cool experience because it's something that came out of nowhere. Like, I was, so I've been making content on investing and like finance in the past like 3 years, but I'm mainly doing it just out of fun and also to kind of teach myself as well, because I feel like if I can teach it to someone, then I really understand how it is, or how it works. That's how I know that I'm learning something, is if I'm able to kind of explain it to somebody in a sense where they're learning from it and I would learn from it as well. So I actually, in the pandemic, I was making a lot of TikTok videos and kind of just like had like viral videos, you know, at that time. And then right now I have about 66,000 followers on TikTok. And I did not even realize that people can reach out to me through my TikTok, because apparently I put my email, which I don't even know. And then so one day, BlackRock, they reached out to me on email and saying that, hey, we have this event and we want to invite you on this influencer summit. And I kid you not, I thought it was like a scam. I was like I didn't even like really bother, you know, with it. And then it came up again on my phone, like you want to reply, you know, because sometimes like Gmail like gives you a notification like this was sent, you want to reply 5 days ago. And then I was like, so I looked back on it again and I was like, wow. I look at the email address and I was like, oh, it shows that it's blackrock.com. So I'm like, it may be legit. And then so they said that they're going to have like so they're releasing like an ETF that's a target date fund, and they want to invite me because like I teach about investing or I make content about investing, and if they want to just if I want to just join it. So it's not a paid thing, right? So it's not like they're just inviting you to do the event and also ring the bell. And I was like, okay, I don't know if I want to go because like I'm going to have to shoulder my cost with the flight, the hotel, and all this stuff. So I initially was telling my husband about it. And then he's like, you should go. Like, you know, why not? And then my mom found out about it because I kind of mentioned it in our group chat in our family. And then she told my dad. And then my dad was like, why are you not going? Like, you should go. This is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like, and he's not like big into, you know, investing or this kind of stuff, or like even talking to me about it. So I was like surprised that he even encouraged me to go. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. And it just so happens to that it was my husband and I's like wedding anniversary at that time, that weekend. So I was telling my husband, can you ask like your parents if they can watch the kids, and this could be our anniversary trip slash, you know, like just an event. And he's like, yeah. And his parents were so nice. They watched the kids over the weekend. And my husband, being the credit card points that he is, like, he booked us a flight in hotels at Hilton. It was like a really nice hotel too, and it's all for free because we used our points. So in a way, it's like a free event. And then we flew over there, and then it was so surreal that I was like telling my husband, like, it doesn't feel real. And sometimes I still do get kind of like the imposter syndrome, like, why am I here? Like, why me? Like, why did they reach out to me? And then they even like ask just 5 like influencers or 5 creators to get up the bell. Like, they cannot invite everybody, so they're like, would you like to be one of those like 5 or 6 like influencers? I'm like, heck yeah, like I want to go up there. Like, so it was so like it was like so surreal. So, and I felt like it really validated, like kind of gave me more authority to speak on like investing in the stock market, because like I'm right there with all these people who are investors and everything. So, but it doesn't seem like it's real. So I look at my photos sometimes, I'm like, oh, did it really happen?
That's great. I know imposter syndrome, that comes up in most conversations. And I think someone said that if you don't have some level of imposter syndrome, then you're not setting your goals big enough.
The whole BlackRock thing I think is interesting because, you know, we mostly invest in real estate.
That's all we do.
Pretty much only. But, you know, BlackRock's a name that gets thrown around a lot as like this big thing. In fact, I think I just saw a story the other day that I posted on Instagram, and it was like, you know, BlackRock celebrating like outbidding a single mother with 3 kids or something like that on a 3-bedroom house. So there's that thing. So it's like, what was your impression of like the event and like BlackRock as a
person?
Yeah. Did you have any like preconceived notions about them going into it, and did that change during that trip?
No, I absolutely did, because like I've seen those headlines about, you know, like this big investment companies like taking over like the housing in the United States, leaving people with no, you know, and so I have kind of like a bad, you know, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do it, like, but that specific I mean, it's kind of hard to, I would say, like, it's hard to have that stigma in your head going into that and not feel like kind of some sort of guilt. Like, am I like promoting them? Am I, you know, am I here because for me, I'm very big on like my values, like, and my ideologies. And like, I feel like if it's something that does not or contradicts even like my values, it's something that I definitely don't want to be associated with, or something that I don't want to work with. Like, I'm very big on that. And so that's why I've turned down so many, you know, collaborations, because I'm like, I don't know if I really want to do that. But for this case specifically, they're actually like, it's like a branch of BlackRock that is more on retirement. They're the ones who invited me. And then so their main, I guess, like, mission, or like their main goal is to get more people to have a dignified retirement by investing in the stock market, which, you know, sometimes like it's very difficult to be in a position where you're conflicted when it comes to your values, but at the same time, like, what can I do? Like, you know, like, I want to make the most of what I can with what I have, versus like just not doing it because of your ego and saying that, you know, like, that does not, I guess, like, align with my values. So, I mean, at that point, like, I did meet, oh my God, it's so crazy, because like I went to the stock market exchange, and there's this like old people just, you know, like introducing themselves and everything. And my husband and I were looking at each other. We would look at their like badge, and they're like the vice president of like the retirement like section of BlackRock, and they're worth like millions of dollars. They're like CEO of like, you know, and so we were like, so like we're like in this room full of people that are like so big in their company.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, they're humans too, they're people too. And besides the fact that they work for BlackRock, they also have their own individualities where they really believe in investing and like, you know, people having retirement plans and really be able to live their life, you know, after they work for like 40, 50 years. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like personally and individually, they're actually really nice people. And like, you wouldn't even think that they're this big executives in BlackRock because they're just very personable, like in real life. So,
Yeah.
so it's actually a really great experience to even like see them like that in person, like individually.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. It's like you don't know until you try it. So it's like like having preconceived notions is not always, you know, taking somebody else's word about something. It's not a, and like you said, it's like you weigh the options. You mentioned like going with your gut feeling on these decisions, and it sounds like, you know, like I think if I had the opportunity to like go to New York, ring the bell, and like have that experience, like I probably would have done it. So yeah, it's cool.
As someone who does all of the stock investing, you would go ring the bell?
No, well, not because of the stock investing, just because it's like an iconic thing to do. Like, I mean, regardless of how I feel about, you know, the interwebs and all that stuff, like I still think it's cool.
Yes.
This is me going to show how naive I am in the stock market, but I didn't realize that you still like went in person and did this sort of stuff. I figured it was all like online.
Yeah, it's actually in person. I can't believe.
All right, sorry. This is why I like real estate, because I know this house right next to me exists, but like the stocks and stuff, like where are they?
Yeah, is it real?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I guess it still happens in person.
Well, and to that, like, because that is one of my reservations personally about like stock investing and like the, you know, like all these like crypto and all this stuff is like I like real estate because of that. Like you mentioned, the tangible asset. It's like I could go and I could see the property, there it is. And then, I mean, I don't, depending on how old people are that are listening, like I don't know if people remember what happened with Enron, and I don't even fully understand it happened when I was younger, but all I remember is just like people's retirements just like disappearing like that. So as somebody that invests in this kind of stuff and is like, you know, a proponent, what am I trying to say? Fan of it? I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like,
we got you.
What do you say to people like me and kind of Josh about like, you know, like why we should invest in stocks and that kind of stuff?
No, and this is why like diversification is like so important when it comes to investing, because you don't want to put everything in one basket, right? Like they always say that. And with investments, like I think that any kind of investments like carries like some sort of like inherent risk to it. So it really depends on how comfortable you are with taking on that risk. A lot of times this risk is very, I guess, your emotions and your knowledge on that specific type of investment really affects like how risky you're going to be when it comes to like taking on an investment. So people who really don't understand how the stock market works or like how you can mitigate the risk in the stock market, I would understand why they're very skeptical in investing in the stock market, right? Because they don't fully they don't know like what goes on. Like, so it's the same thing for me, like with real estate. Like we have real estate property, but I'm not like big on real estate because I don't know much about it, right? Like I haven't really got into like learning about this, you know, like the returns, ROI and all that stuff with the real estate. So I'm not skeptical about real estate investments, but I'm more comfortable doing stock market investing because that's something that I am very familiar with. So I guess for people who are not into like stock market investing because they hear all of this news about people, you know, wiping out their retirement when the stock market crashed, this kind of stuff, I think like just take the time to learn it if that's something that you really want to get into, because there are ways where you can mitigate the risk with stock market investing and like some strategies on how you won't have to experience that retirement like loss, like when it comes to a time when you're ready to take your money out from the stock market. So I mean, I'm a big proponent of like putting everything like, in different baskets. Like I am not just, even though I teach nurses how to invest in the stock market, I don't tell them that that's like the only way. So I even tell them like, real estate is really great. You should reach out to this like nurse or this, like Instagram person, or this Investing RN podcast if you want to learn more about real estate, because like the more you understand the investments that you want to get into, like I guess like you'd be more inclined to invest in that asset.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's definitely like what it is for me. It's like a lack of understanding, and I just
And that's why I'm so diversified and only buy real estate.
Diversified in real estate. There you go.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
diversified in my 40s.
Right. And so stock market, and this is us not, or I say us, this is me not knowing anything about
you
stock
can say
market.
us.
Okay. Average return across the last 50 years is, they say, what, 7%? Around there. But in real estate, like I see what we're able to do, and then I see what other people are able to do, and I would say the average return is a lot higher than that.
Yeah.
So what draws you, or what keeps you in the stock market rather than diving into real estate?
So that's a great thing that you bring up, because like a lot of times what I always hear from people who are, I'd say like against stock market investing, is because of the returns. Like they always say that, oh, you'll get much more money if you put it in something else, like buying a rental property or buying like a duplex or like an apartment, or like doing syndications. Like you'll get much more money like from the interest and all that stuff. What I want to say about that is that when you put your money in an investment, I think it's really important to know what your time horizon is when it comes to like the returns of your investment. So for somebody who loves the work that they do, like they like their W-2, they're okay with being a nurse. There are some people like that. I know not a lot of people are like that, where they don't like nursing.
We represent even the people that like nursing.
No, but like as what I was saying, like, there are some people who likes the work that they do, and they don't really see themselves like, retiring in the next 5-10 years. So I think that the best thing that they could do is putting it somewhere where they can still gain money, but they don't have to do the active work of investing. Because, like real estate, you guys are real estate investors, that it's not like a completely passive thing. Like it's almost like another job by itself. So yeah, it is. It's not. And people say, oh, you could like real estate is like passive income because you're getting cash flow, this and that. But behind that, like you're gonna be like dealing with brokers, lenders, and like dealing with your tenants and like all this stuff. So it's not really like some people don't like to deal with all those stuff. So it's another option is to just invest in the stock market and do that.
Well, since it came up though, there are a lot of passive ways to invest in real estate. Also, you can put money with people like, so we recently started raising money for it, or one of our recent episodes is somebody who raises capital just for real estate investments, and they're able to give decent returns. I think he said 10 to 12% on average.
Is this like syndications and crowdfunding?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, one of the other things you mentioned was like the time. I forget how you said it, but in a real estate, and it's something that like we didn't understand getting into this, but what like the cash conversion cycle. So it's like, for example, one of our flips took 2 years. So it's like going into it, first of all, we didn't plan on it being a flip, but it's like, the first deal we did went pretty well. And it was like, maybe 3 to 6 months, we got all our money back. And then this next one takes 2 years. And it's like understanding that like, okay, I'm investing this much money and I'm expecting to get it back when, because it's like, yeah, like I think a lot of people get into, this stock markets and real estate thinking it's going to be like this quick thing, and maybe it doesn't happen fast enough. And then all of a sudden you start adjusting your plan because you need that return. And then you start like trying to do things that you shouldn't be doing, like day trading, like buying crypto during COVID, like everyone else.
No, because that's so true that like people sometimes forget that investment is called an investment for a reason, because you want to give it time to grow and like actually give you the returns that you want from it. And like we are so conditioned to like instant gratification, pretty much just getting the result right away. Like even now, like if you think about it, like air fryers, like it's like everything's like so fast, and like everything, you know, and people are so conditioned to like seeing the results right away, when in fact like the best investments are the one that can compound over time. And that's why I always say that the best trait that you can have as an investor is really be patient, because like some of these things, like they don't like give a return right when you put the money in it. So yeah.
Did you change your strategy at all during COVID when all these crazy things were going on and everybody was day trading?
Oh yeah, like I mean, in COVID, around COVID time, I was actually like trading. Like I traded for like a year. I was like learning about options trading and everything. So I did that for like a year, and I've lost money. Like I think at that time, like I only have my daughter at that time, so I'm kind of more flexible with like losing money, because I know for sure that if I'm going to trade my money, that's money that's gone. Like I don't even want to look at it as something that I could like gain back. So my mentality is I open like an account just mainly for trading. And I'm kind of dumb at that time, because like I used real money to learn how to do all these things. So I put like $10,000. I'm like, I'm going to just, you know, like trade. And then so I've gained money, lost money, and then I just realized that you can actually do this like with fake money, like with paper trading. And I was like, I didn't know that you could do that. I should have done that. But you know, money is like right now, like for me, like I had like a crazy shift in my mindset when it comes to money. Right now, like I don't really look at it like money to be like money is just, it has no value if people are not putting value in it. You know, like we're the ones who are putting value in our money. And like at that time, like I think I was just like trying to learn how to do it. So I mean, it's still a lot of money, and it's a privilege to be able to lose that and not like, you know, lose my like ways to survive, because you know it's still a privilege. But yeah, my mindset about money kind of changed over time. And I think it's once I started having a good relationship with money and thinking that it's not something that I need to constantly, you know, like I guess strive or like chase after, then that's when actually I started making more money.
That's great. And how much of that was like cultural? Because my dad's Mexican. Money was the way you described how you were raised, is it kind of resonates. It sounds very similar to how I was raised. Money was like evil and not talked about. So yeah, how much of that was just cultural, and how are you able to grow out of that?
It's a really big thing. And I think that because I grew up in the Philippines, I actually moved here when I was like 15 years old. So for most of my childhood, I grew up in the Philippines. And because it's a third world country, like you can really see the big difference with like the income differences. And you know, like there's really really rich people like politicians, and you know, and then you'll drive by like in Manila, and then you see these people like living on the side of the street. So you can see a big disproportion like with money. And so like people, I guess we were kind of like in the middle class. And I've always thought that, you know, people who are up there who are making a lot of money are like evil, they're corruption and all that stuff. So growing up, that's always what I've always kind of thought about money. And so yeah, so it really is a big cultural thing. And a lot of people don't even realize how their childhood or their experiences around money really affects like how, you know, they handle their money, or like how they even invest their money.
You mentioned earlier having a business. So at what point, you know, being a Libra, balancing things out, like at what point did you decide like,
Pros and
hey,
cons.
yeah, pros and cons of starting a business? How did you weigh that out and figure out that that's something you wanted to get into?
Yeah. And what is your business?
Yeah.
Well, so I wouldn't really have like seen myself, you know, when I was younger to be how I am now, because there was never like, I came from a family that are all I would say like W-2 workers. Like none of them are entrepreneurial. Like none of them have, none of them owned any businesses. But I've kind of always been the type of person that doesn't like to be told what to do. So I've always kind of seen that as a personality of mine growing up. Like, if you tell me one thing, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm doing it my way. So like I've always known that I want to control my own time. I want to be able to do what I want to do. And at the same time, what I really enjoyed is like helping other people like solve their problems. So the business ownership, I knew in my heart that it's something that I'm kind of meant to do, but I never even really started my business, to be honest with you, until last year. So my business is content creation and just like nurse to invest, so nursing flow sheets. So it's really like providing financial education for nurses. So it didn't really even came about until last year where I officially made it into like an LLC, a business. But before that, I was already, kind of like making content about financial education. And so I know for sure that I'm meant to create like an impact in this world, not through like my full-time job, I would say. But yeah, so I guess that's what like pushed me into business. And I think my personality is just more leaning towards like being an entrepreneur, because my husband is like the opposite of me. He's like, I don't know about you, why you want to worry about this stuff. I clock in and out of work, I go home, I don't have to worry about anything. I'm okay doing this forever. I'm like, that's good. That means I'm gonna have benefits until I retire.
Exactly. It's funny 'cause I always thought growing up, I was like, man, the perfect wife would be a teacher. Like, they have the same schedule as the kids. They get good benefits. They have the summers off.
Oh, that is so true.
But I married an entrepreneur as well. So we're both just like fighting for like, hey, it's my turn to work. But to your husband's point, like, and that's something that we've kind of talked about with some people. It's like, what do you miss about nursing? And I know for me, it's not worth like it wouldn't be the only reason I'd go back, but like, yeah, like that clocking in and clocking out is very valuable when you're like, there was a time I was like sitting on the beach with my daughter and somebody was like, got like 3 calls about like all these different properties we're managing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, when I was a nurse, it was like 3 days, clock out. I'll see you next week. Like, so there's value in that.
It's nice. No, it's nice to know that you're going to have a paycheck, whether like, you work like on the weekend or something, because I guess it's also perspective. It depends on how you see it as well. Because like I said, my husband is the type of person who's okay with just clocking in and out and not worrying about this other things. But I found out for myself, even when I was working as a full-time nurse, even before, I do things like that are outside my full-time job, like not necessarily to make money, but I find that I've always kind of wanted to do other things. So I've even streamed video games. I've done all these other things like side hustles on the sides. I've always done side hustles, like from the get-go. So I knew that I'm just that kind of person, that I don't mind the extra work. I don't mind doing other things, outside of my full-time job.
Yeah, and I think it's cool too, because like another thing that comes up a lot is like having invested so much time and money into this career path. Like, how do you kind of justify, and you're not leaving it right now, but for some people they have left it, and how do you justify that? But like you said, it's like you're still going to be doing good, and it's because of your background in nursing that you'll be like impacting those people. So in a sense, you're still greatly impacting and improving the nursing field. So yeah, it's a lot of mind shifts.
Yeah.
It is.
And nursing is such a great career because there's a long runway where you can build while you're still working as a nurse. You don't have to leave it right away. You'll still have the safety and security while you're building something else that's a little bit more risky.
Yeah, it's so underrated. Like, to be honest with you, like I always teach this, like that nursing is honestly one of the only profession where you can like do all these things on the side and know that you can always find a job anywhere, like even if it's a per diem job, a part-time job, like, like you're still a nurse, even if like you stop full-time nursing. And there's so many places you can work. Like you don't have to necessarily do bedside nursing. Like there's just so many avenues that you can do as a nurse besides working in hospital or clinic setting.
I know, as we're talking, and I mentioned that thing about the teacher. Now I'm thinking
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be a school nurse now.
Yeah.
That's gonna be my next career path.
No, I heard it's a great gig too.
Yeah,
Like,
it is.
they love it. Like because they're also off during the summer and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's like telephone triage or like urgent care. It's like you better go to the hospital. Like
Everything. Just go
This
to the
is
hospital.
something. I know this is something.
Yeah. So I think Josh will kick this off for us, but we're gonna hop into our final five right here. And
Final five. Here we go. What is a top financial resource? Yeah, that's it.
somehow these questions are written down, but somehow every time we do them, they come out different. I don't know.
Because sometimes I'll say it and I was like, well, that sounded dumb. I'm going to try to make something up this time.
You see how well he works on his feet.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, not
so,
great.
Or like it's nice that we're in this age where like, there's information that is easily available for all of us to consume. For financial education, like I love listening to podcasts like this podcast. I love reading books. My nursing blog, I'm gonna plug that as well. So I put a lot of like like financial education posts in there. So really just trying to figure out like what resonates with you when you look into social media, like how I mean like finding credible like resources is also one thing versus just finding resources online. So I think like books is my main thing, like what I tell people to get into it if they want to learn about something.
Yeah. And is your blog the same title?
It's actually Nursing Flow Sheet. I don't even know how I come up with that because, I actually started nursing and we were doing like paper charting at that time, and we call our charting flow sheets. So I don't even know how I come up. I'm like, I'm going to name my blog Nursing Flow Sheet because I'm going to put all my nursing experiences here, which is initially what it is. Like, it's more of just like my nursing experiences, like as a new grad nurse. And then it became a personal finance blog.
So my first job out of school as a nurse, we were on paper charting, and we were on paper charting just long enough for my signature to look like trash. I used to write out my name. Now it's like, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, exactly. I'm on a lot of email lists, and I was just gonna say that yours is one that I actually read because it's really good.
Oh, that's really nice. Thank you.
So yeah, you guys need to go get on her email list because it's really good.
And we'll definitely link all this. So
awesome.
So number 2, what advice would you give yourself as a new grad?
Invest early. Invest as soon as you can. Whether it's stock market investing, whether it's real estate, you want to make your money work for you as soon as possible so that you don't have to keep on working for your money for a long time.
So buy the car, buy the bags, but just start investing early.
Yes. Like you can do that too. A lot of people are always like, it's always like a black and white thing. It's not like that. Like there's a way where you can do both.
That's true.
For everything.
Part of the struggle for some, myself probably also, is that like when you first actually start making enough money to invest, it hurts more when you lose money. And that's probably the time where you have the greatest chance of losing money is when you're still learning.
Mm-hmm.
But just do it anyway.
Just do it anyway because you're learning in the process. I mean, it just sucks that you're going to lose money, but you'll know how to gain it back in the process.
And it's inevitable. You will lose money, but you lose it early and then you'll learn from it and then you'll make a ton later.
Yes.
But I also think like everyone's path is different, and it's like some people, whatever the upbringing, wherever their background is, like some people need that like just to like get out and like do something. Like I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's like, yeah, you can have it both ways. Like it doesn't have to be all one or the other. Like you said, I think you said earlier, it's not like black and white. It's like, so yeah, I think that's,
you can do both.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Number 3 is, what's your big goal for this year? What are you going to do in the next 12 months?
Well, my goal for this year is to just reach more nurses to learn more about financial education, which is great that you guys have this podcast because we have the same like mission is to like create more rich nurses because we do so much for other people that we need to do something for ourselves as well. Reaching more nurses and work with Fidelity. Like I've always wanted to work with Fidelity. Like that's one of my main goals is to like have a brand partnership with them. I'm just gonna put it out there.
Yeah. So Fidelity, if you're listening, no, just
Yeah,
kidding.
Universe.
Bring us Fidelity. So number 4, if you were to tell people to do one thing right now, what would you tell them to do?
Just take action, because a lot of times we are so overwhelmed with all the information, like all the resources and everything. Like we get all of these, like you listen to a podcast like this, or like you read a book. But if you're not putting into action, like it's really not going to make a big difference in your life. And I always say that information without implementation is useless. So like you have to take action with the information that you are getting from all this, places about financial education.
Yeah.
All right, last one. Number 5 is, what is the biggest financial mistake that you've made and how can we avoid it?
Oh God. I mean, I've made so many, like mistakes. One is not investing early. I think that's like for everybody who knows about investing and how important it is to invest early. But don't take out your retirement money to buy a new purse. So I took out my pension money when I was a new grad nurse. When I was moving to Sacramento, I was like, I'm not going to use this. Like, I'm not going to, see my retirement for another 20, 30 years. So I'm going to withdraw it. So I withdrew I think I put like $11,000 in there. I withdrew it, paid the penalty, paid the tax, probably left with like 7,000. And then I'm like, I'm going to buy a new purse and I'm going to spend it all on all these crazy things. And funny thing is, just recently, just this month, I wrote a paycheck of 12,000 just so I can put it back to that retirement, to that pension, so I can get my credit back from those years that I worked, which is really nice that I was able to do that. But I'm like, man, like I shouldn't have taken it out.
But how much is that purse worth today? Like how much equity do you have?
It was an investment.
It was a bad investment.
What kind of purse was it?
It was a Louis Vuitton. It was a Louis Vuitton bag, and I don't even know why I bought it, to be honest with you. And a lot of us are probably like, when we are so like blinded with all this luxury items, like you think that it's gonna make you happy. But to be honest with you, when I bought that purse, it was only I was only happy about that purchase for like the first week, and after that I was like regretting it. I was like, man, I shouldn't have, like now I barely use it. Like, it's like I said, instant gratification. You want to get the gratification from buying it right away, but you're only impressing other people, not yourself.
Yeah.
So I noticed you didn't mention your podcast that you have during this whole time. Do you want to plug that? What's your podcast about? And it's recent, right? A couple weeks?
Yes.
Weeks
Yeah. No, actually just this week I just released a podcast, and thank you. Yeah. So it's called Scrubs and Stocks Podcast. I've had this idea in the last like 2-3 years, but I never really put into action for it. So it wasn't until just recently that I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. But in this podcast, I pretty much just talk about, nursing, how you can leverage nursing as a career to build wealth. I talk about investing in the stock market, investing in yourself, investing in, a business, if that's something that you want to do. So I'm just sharing my experience as a business owner in there as well.
Awesome. So okay, so we got Scrubs and Stocks, we got flow sheets, or nursing flow sheets. So why don't I'll probably be better if I just let you go ahead and plug all your things.
And we'll put them in the show notes too.
Yeah. So you can find me in my blog, nursingflowsheet.com. I'm Nurse Who Invests in all of my social media. And so I just have my podcast as well, Scrubs and Stocks Podcast, on Apple and Spotify and everywhere.
Nice. Well, this has been a long time coming. It was a lot of fun. So thanks for coming on today.
Yeah.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you so much.